Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's jump straight into this, because what we're looking at today is nothing short of a high-stakes battle. On one side, we have VLSI engineers, these brilliant minds who've been relentlessly shrinking microchips for decades to power pretty much everything in our modern world. And on the other side, the uncompromising, immutable laws of atomic physics. For a long time, Moore's law, the observation that transistor counts double roughly every 2 years, has been the absolute golden rule of tech. But, as we're going to see today, physics is finally starting to push back. Hard.
So that brings us to a really fundamental question. Why can't microchips just keep shrinking infinitely? I mean, we've gone from transistors you could literally hold in your hand to packing billions of them onto a sliver of silicone the size of your fingernail. So what's actually stopping us from scaling down forever? Why is Moore's law suddenly hitting a brick wall at the microscopic scale?
We'll just look at this thermal image. This brilliantly illustrates one of the most immediate symptoms of that wall. That glowing bright red center, that is the literal heat that chip engineers are battling right now. When you cram billions of switching devices into a tiny, tiny area, the abstract concept of power dissipation becomes a stark, burning reality. If we don't solve the underlying physical limits of scaling, chips don't just stop getting faster, they literally cook themselves.
To understand how we get out of this mess, we really need to understand the physics of the mess itself. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the end of miniaturization, move to the leaky transistor problem, and then examine voltage, noise, and heat. After that, we'll cover electromigration before looking at how we're engineering around the physics, and finally, we'll wrap up with the future of chips.
Okay, Section 1, the end of miniaturization, when normal rules break down. Because as we shrink these devices down to the nanometer scale, electricity simply stops behaving the way we want it to. Here's our baseline. You're probably familiar with this, the standard N-channel MOSFET. You've got your source, your gate, and your drain. Now, in a perfect textbook world, when you turn that gate voltage off, when it's sitting at 0, this transistor is supposed to act like a perfectly closed door. The off state should block absolutely all current flowing between the source and the drain. But at incredibly small scales, physics has other plans. That heavy, solid door becomes a lot more like a flimsy screen door in a hurricane.
Which leads us to our first major physical roadblock. Section 2, the leaky transistor problem, the microscopic enemy. This is the issue that legitimately threatens to derail low-power electronics entirely.
The primary culprit we're dealing with here is subthreshold leakage. Think of it like a leaky faucet that you just can't fully shut off, no matter how hard you crank the handle. Even when the transistor is operating below its threshold voltage, meaning it's technically completely off, a weak inversion current just keeps persisting. And to make matters worse, engineers are also fighting gate oxide tunneling, where electrons literally quantum tunnel right through the ultra-thin silicon dioxide barrier, plus junction leakage from reverse biased diodes. It's a mess.
Now, the really crucial point here is the math behind this leakage. As you can see, this is not a linear problem. It's exponential. According to the formula, at room temperature, every 60 millivolt reduction in the gate-to-source voltage cuts the current by roughly 10 times. Which sounds great, right? Until you realize just how small our operating voltages have gotten. The key takeaway here is that at modern 5-nanometer nodes, this subthreshold leakage has grown so massive that it dangerously rivals the actual on-state current in low-power designs. It's basically like having a car engine that burns almost as much gas idling in the driveway as it does going down the highway.
And the real-world consequences of this are absolutely severe. First off, leakage now entirely dominates the static, standby power of modern system-on-chips. It's the exact reason your phone battery mysteriously drains overnight while you're sleeping. This forces mobile platforms like the Qualcomm Snapdragon to use incredibly aggressive power gating just to survive the day. Over in high-density desktop processors from AMD and Intel, this same leakage induces massive self-heating, which degrades performance and actually accelerates aging. Left unchecked, you're looking at thermal runaway and reliability nightmares that physically shorten the life of the device.
So, to fight that heat and save power, engineers try to lower the operating voltage. But that introduces a completely different crisis. Section 3, voltage, noise, and heat, squeezing the headroom.
Take a look at this dramatic drop from the older 18-nanometer nodes down to today's 5-nanometer tech. That tall bar is your supply voltage, and the shorter bar is the threshold voltage. Now, reducing supply voltage is awesome because it lowers dynamic power quadratically, but as it scales down, it violently squeezes the gap between itself and the threshold voltage.
Today, industry leaders like TSMC and Samsung are operating 5nm and 3nm nodes below 0.7 volts. There's practically no headroom left.
So why does that shrinking headroom actually matter? Think of it like trying to have a conversation. Ideal voltage is like talking in a perfectly quiet room. You have robust logic levels and wide, comfortable noise margins. It is super easy to tell a 1 from a 0. But scaled voltage, operating down below 0.7 volts, that's like trying to whisper in a crowded, noisy concert hall. Because the voltage swing is so incredibly tiny, the circuits become highly vulnerable. Capacitive crosstalk from tightly packed wires injects noise. Random variations in how the silicon was doped shift the threshold unpredictably, and resistance in the power network causes the voltage to droop. In this noisy room, your tiny whisper, your logic signal, can easily be misheard or lost entirely, leading to sluggish switching times and just outright fatal errors. And while the transistors are struggling just to be heard, the wires connecting them are literally tearing themselves apart. Welcome to Section 4, Electromigration, breaking the wires. This is, hands down, perhaps the most destructive physical problem in modern chip design.
Electromigration is a fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying phenomenon. As we scale down, the interconnect wires get incredibly narrow, which means the current density just skyrockets. It's like taking the entire volume of a wide, slow-moving river and trying to force it through a standard garden hose. The flow becomes so intense that the momentum transfer from the electrons actually knocks the metal atoms completely out of place. The current physically washes away its own riverbanks. It permanently displaces metal to form microscopic voids that cut the wire open, and then it piles up that displaced metal to form hillocks that short-circuit to adjacent wires.
And we can calculate exactly how fatal this is using Black's equation. I won't bore you with what every single variable means, but the core takeaway here is absolute mathematical certainty. Mean time to failure drops sharply as current density and temperature increase. If engineers don't perfectly manage the intense forces inside these microscopic wires, the chip will inevitably destroy itself from the inside out.
But here is where the story gets really inspiring. Section 5, Engineering around the physics. Humanity strikes back. Faced with literally impossible physical limits, the brilliant engineers of this industry have invented some heroic workarounds to fight back against nature. Let's look at a few. To fix the leaky transistor problem, Intel and TSMC introduced the FinFET. They took the flat, 2D transistor and stood it up into a 3D fin, wrapping the gate around 3 sides of it to massively improve control and reduce leakage by a factor of 10. But eventually, even that wasn't enough. So now, for the cutting-edge 3nm and 2nm nodes, Samsung and TSMC are moving to GAAFETs, gate-all-around nanosheets. They literally slice the silicon into floating ribbons, surrounding them completely with the gate for ultimate channel control, which lets voltages drop safely below 0.65 volts. Meanwhile, companies like Qualcomm and AMD are using multi-threshold CMOS, essentially mixing high and low-threshold transistors on the exact same piece of silicon to perfectly balance screaming fast performance with ultra-low power.
And to stop the wires from washing away, they're changing the very elements they build with. Copper has been the gold standard for interconnects for decades, but it simply can't survive the electromigration forces at sub-10 nanometer scales. So, Intel and TSMC have started surrounding their copper wires with incredibly tough liners made of cobalt and tungsten just to hold the metal in place. Samsung is going even further than that, shifting entirely to exotic materials like ruthenium for their smallest local wires, just to keep them from breaking apart under the current.
But even with all these brilliant fixes, FinFETs, nanosheets, ruthenium wires, we are fast approaching the final boundary. Section 6, the future of chips, reaching the atomic limit. You see, we are quite literally running out of physical space to put atoms. So what's next? Well, the industry is looking beyond silicon entirely. We're actively exploring 2D materials like MOS2 and graphene to create transistor channels that are literally only an atom or 2 thick. For nodes beyond 2 nanometers, we're looking at CFETs, which is where we just start stacking transistors vertically, right on top of each other. To solve the wiring problems, we're developing photonic interconnects, literally replacing electricity with light to transmit data without resistance or electromigration. And we're heavily embracing chiplet architectures, breaking down giant, basically unbuildable chips into smaller, specialized blocks woven together in a single package.
Which leaves us with a truly fascinating question to end on today. As we perform these absolutely incredible feats of engineering, stacking atomic layers, replacing electrons with photons, weaving together 2D materials, we are ultimately delaying the inevitable. What happens to our technology, to our constant, insatiable demand for more computing power, when we finally truly run out of atoms to manipulate? It is a thrilling frontier, and I, for one, cannot wait to see how engineers solve it next. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.